Right now, roughly 300,000 people are asleep in the air over the Black Atlantic. For 50 years, every one of those aircraft flew an invisible night highway across an ocean nobody could see. This exact system is being deleted. Somewhere below that dark water, a controller is staring at a screen that shows almost nothing. He doesn't see the aircraft. He's never seen them, not once, in an entire career. He only knows where they are because he put them there himself, hours ago, on paper, and trusted the dark to hold its promise. Every aircraft up there carries fuel, passengers, and a flight plan that was locked in before it ever crossed the coast. From that point forward, there is no second chance to look. No camera, no live feed. Just timing and trust, repeated every single night for 50 years. In the next few minutes, you'll see why planes were ever forced into these night corridors, why the middle of the ocean stayed a blind spot for half a century, and what just changed in the sky above it that's quietly switching the whole system off. And underneath all of it, a question nobody thought to ask, until something in the sky quietly changed. By day, transatlantic traffic looks scattered. Aircraft cross wherever, whenever, spread loosely across the sky. At night, something strange happens. The aircraft bunch together. They funnel into a handful of narrow lanes and cross the ocean almost simultaneously. Dozens of them, minutes apart, all on the same few invisible roads, all aimed at the same stretch of empty sky. It looks like an artificially created traffic jam. It was. But the reason has nothing to do with comfort and nothing to do with price. Airlines didn't choose this. Nobody chose this for convenience. Someone arranges those lines every single night, from the ground, in the dark, before a single passenger boards, before a single engine starts. The entire crossing has already been decided by people who will never see a single aircraft they're responsible for. Here's why. Once an aircraft passes beyond the reach of Canada or Ireland, controllers lose sight of it. Completely. Not partially, completely. The radar simply stops working past a certain distance from land because radar needs a clear line of sight and the curve of the Earth itself gets in the way. No radar reaches the middle of the Atlantic. None ever has. The aircraft is out there, somewhere, carrying 200, 300, sometimes 500 people, and the people responsible for keeping it safe cannot see it. Not on a screen. Not on a map that updates itself. Nothing. For decades, the only thing tying that aircraft to the ground was a position report, radioed in roughly every 14 minutes, a pilot's voice, reading out coordinates, and a controller writing them down by hand. Hundreds of lives in a metal tube, crossing open water, and the only thing standing between order and disaster was trust and timing, and a piece of paper updated once every quarter of an hour. The ocean is blind. It has always been blind. You'd think less ability to see would mean more freedom in the sky. It means the opposite. Less visibility means stricter rules, far stricter than anywhere else in aviation. On a domestic flight, ground radar can separate aircraft by just a few miles because controllers can watch every move in real time and correct instantly. Take that radar away, and the entire safety margin has to grow by a lot. Every night, controllers draw a fresh set of lanes across the Atlantic, the North Atlantic tracks. Typically 5 to 10 of them, redrawn from scratch each evening, repositioned to chase the best winds and avoid the worst weather. And the aircraft inside them aren't separated by distance the way you'd expect. They're separated by minutes. An aircraft doesn't just need to be in the right lane. It needs to be at the right point in that lane, at the right second, the way a train needs to be in its slot. 1 minute's delay in the wrong place can disturb the entire formation behind it. A single late departure, hours earlier on the ground, can ripple all the way across an ocean. He cannot see a single one of these aircraft. He is arranging an orchestra he will never watch play. And that orchestra has a reason to play at all, because there's a river running through the sky above the ocean, and it moves faster than almost anything else on Earth. The jet stream. A current of wind, typically over 300 kilometers an hour, snaking across the upper atmosphere at around 9 to 12 kilometers up, shifting position every single day. It isn't fixed. It isn't predictable from one week to the next. It has to be tracked, fresh, every single time the tracks are drawn. Ride it eastbound and you can save close to an hour of flight time. Fight it westbound and you lose that hour back, burning extra fuel the entire way, sometimes enough to force a different routing altogether just to avoid the headwind. The crew above and the controller below are reading the exact same invisible current from two completely different worlds, neither one able to see the other, both trusting the same forecast to get it right. So why does all of this happen at night, specifically? During the day, the sun heats the atmosphere unevenly. Pockets of warm and cool air collide. The air becomes turbulent, unpredictable. The winds shift faster than anyone can forecast with confidence, and a forecast made at noon can already be wrong by mid-afternoon. At night, the atmosphere settles. The sun stops stirring it. It stabilizes. The forecast becomes precise enough to actually trust hours in advance, which is the one thing a blind system absolutely cannot do without. Only then, in that narrow window of atmospheric calm, could anyone thread dozens of aircraft, each one invisible to the controller, through the exact same lanes, separated only by minutes, without a single one drifting into another. Night was never about comfort. Night was the only window predictable enough to run a blind system at this scale. Without it, the entire structure falls apart. The controller trusts the night. It's the one variable that has never let him down. And then, something changed. Since 2019, a network of satellites called Aireon space-based ADS-B has been watching every equipped aircraft over the Atlantic, in real time, not the old 14-minute updates, continuous. For the very first time in 50 years, the blind spot has eyes. Position updates that once arrived every 14 minutes now arrive roughly every 8 seconds. The same controller who once worked from a piece of paper now watches every aircraft move in something close to real time, the same way a domestic flight is tracked over land. And because controllers can finally see where every aircraft actually is, the spacing between them has been allowed to shrink from roughly 40 nautical miles down to as little as 14. More aircraft, closer together, with more confidence than the old system ever allowed. 50 years of darkness. And then, one ordinary day in 2019, the blips simply appear. The next step is already happening. On quiet days, NATS, the UK's air navigation provider, no longer publishes corridors at all, not because the ocean got smaller, because for the first time, it doesn't need fixed corridors to stay safe. No fixed lanes, no assigned tracks. Airlines fly their own optimal route, their own optimal speed, their own optimal altitude, calculated individually, not slotted into a shared formation built around everyone else's aircraft. The 50-year-old highway system is being switched off, lane by lane. Not all at once, but unmistakably, permanently in that direction. On average, the freed-up routes run roughly 200 kilometers shorter than the old fixed tracks. Less fuel burned, less time in the air. All because the discipline that used to be mandatory is no longer the only way to stay safe. What do you gain when discipline is no longer needed? And what, exactly, is lost? Here's the wildest proof the old system ever produced. In February 2020, a British Airways 747 caught a jet stream supercharged by Storm Ciara and flew from New York's JFK to London in 4 hours and 56 minutes, a journey that normally takes over 6. A Virgin Atlantic flight chasing the same wind landed just 1 minute behind it. Top ground speed, roughly 825 miles an hour. Not the sound barrier. That was the wind doing the work, not the engines. The aircraft itself never flew faster than its normal cruising speed. The air around it was simply moving that fast. The all-time record still belongs to Concorde, 2 hours, 52 minutes, 59 seconds, set in 1996, actually breaking the sound barrier on engine power alone. Nothing subsonic has ever come close, and nothing subsonic ever will, without exactly this kind of stolen wind. These nighttime jet stream chasing crossings defined an entire era of flight, and as the corridors disappear and the aircraft are set free to fly their own paths, the rigid nightly ballet that made records like this possible is quietly coming to an end. Think about what that ballet actually required. Dozens of airlines, thousands of staff, an entire overnight coordination system rebuilt from scratch every single evening, all of it running on the discipline of invisible lanes and minute-by-minute timing. The record was not an accident. It was the product of a system that left no room for improvisation, because improvisation over a radarless ocean was never an option. That system made the record possible, and that system is now ending. That record is the legacy of the blind, dark era, an era that is ending right now. For half a century, a handful of controllers held hundreds of sleeping strangers in their heads over an ocean they could not see, trusting timing and nerve in the dark. Tonight, that ocean is lighting up with their blips for the first time, and the invisible discipline that kept us safe is quietly being switched off. You'll never feel it from your window seat. But the next time you fly home overnight and the sea is black beneath you, remember, someone used to fly that ocean blind for you. If you want the hidden systems behind the things you take for granted, stay with us.